Hello, I'm back, and in our previous segment we were talking about Jimmy Dean. So if you want to go ahead and watch this video, go ahead and do it. It's on YouTube, and it's called Jimmy Dean Spaced Out, and it depicts the planets in early in the morning, and they just can't do anything. They're bumping into each other, and it's all unorganized until they eat their Jimmy Dean sausages, and then all of a sudden they're able to orbit the sun the way that they're supposed to. That's not correct. All right, so let's try to be a little bit more scientific about it. So we're going to start off with the ancient Greeks, and so this is going to be approximately 2,000 years ago. And you got this guy by the name of Ptolemy. So I know it looks like Ptolemy, but it's Ptolemy, so you don't pronounce the P. And he was an ancient Greek, and he came up with the idea that the Earth was the center of the universe. So geo means Earth, so geocentric means Earth-centered universe. And then he had the sun and all the planets in orbit around the Earth. Now he was right in that the moon is in orbit around the Earth, but that was about it. So this was not correct, but it did go a long way in explaining things, because it seems like that the sun comes up in the east and sets in the west, and then it seems like the planets do it and the moon does it. So it's just logical to assume that the Earth is not moving, and it's really the other planets and the sun that are doing it, and the rest of the universe, because the stars rise and set. But think about how much energy it would take to be able to do that. So for the next 1,000 years or so, you have the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, when there wasn't a whole lot of stuff done on the advancement of science. So then, at the end of the Middle Ages, you're getting into the beginning of the Renaissance, when you have lots of scientists who are beginning to do experiments and come up with different ways of viewing nature. And so one of these people was Copernicus. So you can see that he lived during the 1400s and the 1500s, and he thought that it would be more logical to put the sun at the center of our solar system and to say that everything revolves around the sun. So this is called the heliocentric universe. So helio means sun, the sun-centered universe. Now it's still not right, because he said that the sun was the center of the universe, which it's not. So the sun is not even the center of our galaxy. It's just part of our galaxy, and then the galaxy is part of the universe. But at least he was better than what Ptolemy was. And he said the sun was the center of the solar system, and then everything was in orbit around it. So if you want to compare these two views, watch this YouTube video, Earth Science, Geocentric, and Heliocentric Theories of the Solar System. Then along comes Galileo. So Galileo was born in the 1500s to the 1600s, and he did a lot of different things in science, but we just want to talk about his contributions to astronomy. And one of the things he did was he used a telescope to observe stars and planets and other objects. And up until this time, the telescope had only been used for looking at ships at sea. But he used it to look at heavenly objects. And one of the heavenly objects he looked at was Jupiter. And he noticed that there were these dots on either side of Jupiter, and these dots over many months would be going back and forth like this. And he wondered, why would these star-like objects be doing that, until he realized they were in orbit around Jupiter. And so from your viewing angle, looking at the plane of the orbit of the moons around Jupiter, you're seeing them do this instead of this. So you're looking at them from the side view, and you don't notice the circular part to it. And so he said to himself, well, if there's moons that are in orbit around Jupiter, then why can't the Earth, in turn, be in orbit around the sun? Now, that's not a proof, but it does make sense. Okay, then he did the phases of Venus. So he started looking at the planet Venus, and he noticed that sometimes Venus would be extra bright, and then at other times Venus would be extra dark. And he knows, that kind of sounds like our moon, because we've learned that sometimes the moon is brightly lit, and then approximately 2 weeks later, it's completely dark. And the reason for that was because the moon is in orbit around the Earth. So similarly, Venus goes through these phases where it gets extra bright and then extra dim because it's in orbit around the sun. And this is really the only way that you can get phases of Venus, is if this happens. So this was the real nail in the coffin for the geocentric universe. So this really does show that the sun is the center of our solar system. So in our next segment, we are going to talk about another guy by the name of Johannes Kepler. So I'll see you in just a moment.